Excellent. You're one step ahead with the documents open, the documentation as well.
Uh,
So you
yes.
have GDK running, right?
Yes.
Perfect. Um, so
And I created a RAW app using the template for Ruby on Rails.
brilliant.
And I've got this GitLab CI YAML file.
Excellent.
And I tried to add this metrics, which I got from this documentation. And I created merge request.
Oh, and you've already got runner up and oh, you've done all the hard work already by the looks of it then.
Yeah. um, okay. But what I see is that it says detected no changes, but in fact, there are some changes in the code, and I expected it to have some different result.
So can you open the web IDE for this MR? So
In
if
web ID,
you go to
okay,
code in the top right hand corner,
uh-huh, I
that's it.
see.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And in the GitLab CI YAML, if you find the metric bit, if you change metric value to new value,
Which of
so
those you mean?
where it says metric name, metric value, if you change metric underscore value on line 40, change the word value or change metric value to new underscore value,
Mm-hmm.
and then commit that because
Okay.
your metric is kind of, yep, just commit that as it is. That's fine. Yeah, because your metric isn't actually dynamic at the moment. It's kind of hard coded for a false, like just to put something in there. Um,
Mm-hmm.
is your runner configured and constantly polling for jobs, or do you manually run it, or how have you got that configured at the moment?
It's running.
Cool,
Yeah,
perfect.
I don't run it manually. Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. Let's see. Okay.
So just
Running.
see how how that pipeline's doing. Yeah, close that. Don't need that anymore. That's it. Right, so hopefully, do you want to just have a look? Yeah, close one of them as well.
Mm-hmm.
See how that pipeline's doing. Um, if you, so,
Mm-hmm.
okay, so it looks like I guess there's dependencies there. So like the metrics job maybe is waiting for the node job to finish or something like that. Hopefully it won't take too long.
Mm-hmm. And while we are waiting, um, in this issue, there is one sentence that caught my eye. It says that customers who are not using merge request cannot check between two pipelines whether metrics have changed or not. Um, does it mean that we allowed to run pipelines on any other places except merge requests?
Absolutely, yes. So if you imagine that maybe you check out master or main, and you make a change and then you create a new branch and you push it to the branch, a pipeline will actually run on that branch that you've just created without a merge request.
Mm-hmm.
So there are other ways to kick off pipelines, and we'll do that in a minute maybe.
Okay.
Do you want to? This normally kind of refreshes, yeah, but it's taking its time. Do you want to open up the Node.js job so we can just see what it's doing? If we need to, we could change.
Node.js.
Oh, it looks
Okay.
like that's finished now. And now it's onto SemGraph. Maybe what
Okay.
we'll do is modify the YAML next time and get rid of a few of the jobs, or do something so that it so that
Mm-hmm.
the metrics job runs like straight away or a bit quicker.
Do you want me to do this right now?
Yeah, well, we may
Or
as well do it while this is running. That sounds like a good idea.
okay. So I need to do those changes in master, right? In the repo.
Um,
Or
you can't. Yeah, well, this will prove two things actually. Let's open up the YAML. In fact, yeah, open the web IDE again as we did before.
mm-hmm. Okay.
Right. So we've got include SAS. So let's remove that include on line 36 and 37. Let's get rid of that. I think that's what a lot of the jobs were that were taking a lot of time. So
Mm-hmm.
you've got a build job that's just going to echo some stuff, a unit test job that's just going to echo some stuff and sleep for 60 seconds, a lint test job that's going to echo some stuff, sleep for 10 seconds, a deploy job that's going to echo some stuff. Fast. I'm a bit confused by get rid of those 34 and 35. Sorry,
Mm.
just line 34 and 35. The one that says
34.
SAST and so yeah, get rid of that. I
Mm-hmm.
can't quite see what that was supposed to do. And then matrix. Let's build test. Let's put the stage. So add a new line in where you are there on line 34, add a new line after that. Sorry, below metrics.
Uh-huh. Yes, yes.
And we'll set the
Mm-hmm.
stage to build. So if you just, yeah, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think build happens before test, so it would mean that that's one of the first jobs that runs. So if you go to commit that, we'll create a new branch for this. So cancel that for a second. If you actually, yeah, no, I suppose you could do that way. I was going to put something in the commit message, but we don't really need to. So I normally click the drop down where it says commit, but I didn't know that you could do what you did just there. That's how I
Commit a new branch.
I guess it does the same thing as what you were doing there, right? Because yours asked if you wanted to create a new branch.
But mm-hmm.
So yeah,
But we can commit directly to master.
No, let's create a new branch.
Okay.
And yeah, just whatever we want to call it, it's fine. Yep, perfect. Right, so we won't create the MR yet though. If you go to build on the left-hand side in the navigation menu
Mm-hmm.
and pipelines. So can you see that pipeline that's running there is running on new branch 2?
Mm-hmm.
So even though there's not a merge request, we can still have an MR. So should we jump back? You might want to close the web IDE that you've still got open. You might want to close that one as well. But this merge request, hopefully the pipeline's finished now. So let's have a quick look in here.
That's a metric reports. Oh,
there you go. It's showing one change now, and it's saying that it changed to new value from metric value. So we could, like, if we wanted to do something clever, we could make it dynamically generate something based on the time or some other random number. But obviously these metrics aren't supposed to be like hard coded values like we've got in there at the moment. They're supposed to be derived from I would say something like code coverage, but code coverage has got its own, maybe speed. Maybe you could put something in there to say like how long it took to build, or something like that, that each time the pipeline runs, that metric will be kind of calculated, and then it will tell you, has it changed or what's it changed since the last one. So yeah,
So
meanwhile, go on.
it means that we have a file with all those reports, and we just read from that file.
Yeah, that's essentially, it generates the file when the pipeline runs. It's kind of stored as an artifact, and it's just reading that value from the artifact. But it doesn't get committed to the repository, if that makes sense. It's just stored as an artifact. But you can see that value there. But then if you go to your pipeline in your next browser tab, obviously there's no, so you could open up the latest 269, that pipeline, and there's obviously nowhere to see that metric. So I guess that's what this is about, right? Trying to expose that metric somewhere in here.
Yes, they ask to add those metrics in the test tab.
Kind of makes sense. I feel maybe that they metrics, job, artifacts, reports, metrics. It doesn't. I'm probably wrong, but the metrics don't necessarily have to be anything to do with tests. So I'm almost inclined to suggest a new tab. Had this one, forgive me, I can't remember, has this one sort of been of product confirmed on this one? No, so we haven't reached out and confirmed yet that this is something. It seems logical. It's been asked for by Ben, who's like a GitLab team member, but it doesn't sort of have anyone recently saying, yeah, this is a good idea, let's do it. Because I think one or more of the other issues that you're working on at the moment, you've had like a designer or a user experience, a UX person, just kind of add some comments. So it'd be good to just get feedback. If it's a quick thing to do, you can kind of move forward with it anyway. But it's probably worth asking that question just to sort of say, like, does the proposal here sound good? If you agree with me, maybe say that you believe that it might make more sense to create a new tab for metrics rather than use the tests tab. But I'm don't let me sort of influence you too much.
I was thinking about this as well, because I don't see how it would fit in here.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
to me,
so
it's something separate. I would also create a new tab for that.
cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe you sort of start moving forward on that assumption, on that basis, but at the same time ask that question on the MR, just to get somebody sort of having a look and feeding back. Like, the sooner you get that feedback, it will sort of prevent you, let's say, going too far down like in the wrong direction. But I think that the main thing is you've figured out now how to generate a metric, and you figured out how to get it to show on an MR. So hopefully you kind of know how to find like the relevant component and the other bits and pieces. And then it's about sort of seeing, well, can you or do you want to like reuse that component on the other tab, or do you need to just take some of the code and like make a new component? How does that all fit in? Do you want to dive into any of that, or do you want to kind of stop now where you've got what you think you need to sort of move forward on your own? Or
unless we have something else to discuss. So I don't have anything except this, so we can try probably.
Yeah, I don't have anything else on my list, so yeah, happy to dig in. So I'll try. Forgive me, I talk too much. Always feel free to tell me to stop. Let me ask you the first question. Like, where would you start, sort of trying to figure out, like which
Mhm.
component is used and how this currently works?
Yeah, so what I usually do, if it's a UI thing, I just inspect the element and look for the unique identifier of this element. Okay, so it's not this one. Okay, matrix. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and here, yes, we can see MR widget app.
So that works pretty well, and I follow that very similar pattern a lot of the time. But there's a little trick. Do you know if you've got Vue DevTools installed?
I don't think I've installed it in here. Probably. Oh,
Oh, you do,
no,
you do.
I do.
Awesome. So if you go back to your kind of, yeah, on here where it says network and then you've got the two arrows, if you click
Mm-hmm.
on there and view, and then you click
Mm-hmm.
the little, I'm going to describe it as a target in the top right hand corner, up a
Top.
little bit. That's the one. Now, if you move your mouse over the page, you can see various view components. So if you
Mm-hmm.
highlight the one that you're interested in, that one's good, click on that. And then that will open up in Vue DevTools, and you can see that the actual component, like the whole hierarchy of the view components, where you were just looking at the DOM, like the HTML
Mm-hmm.
model, like that doesn't help a huge amount when the app is built in Vue.js. Whereas this, you can really specifically now see that there's MR widget. Now, MR widget's probably not really enough. Like that's probably quite generic, if that makes sense. If you expand, yeah, and then look what's inside it. Oh, actually, I'm really surprised by that. Okay, yeah, keep going. All these weird nested components. Wow, crikey.
Content row. Okay.
Okay, that's weird. So there's widget name, widget metrics. Might be worth having a look in VS Code if there's like a Vue file called widget metrics, maybe.
I yeah, I think so because I previously before the meeting
You're
I
already
was
looking at
looking,
that.
yes, but I was searching for that ID somewhere at the
Right.
top. Yeah. And widget matrix. Uh-huh.
So
Okay.
are you
This
using
is
VS
test
Code or are
report.
you using
I
what's it?
used to Sublime, yes,
Yeah, okay, cool.
but I can open
No,
Visual
no, no,
Studio.
no, no, no. It's fine to use it. You know how it works. So yeah, I just like exactly like you're doing there. That's all I'd do. So
Widget matrix. Okay, it's not how.
let me just. I'm gonna open my mine as well, just to help me out a little bit. Right, where are we? No, there isn't one called widget metrics. So
But that's HTML ID, it points me to this
Okay.
in the widget folder. Maybe widget. And is there in the view a place where we say how this component is called? What's the name of this component? Or we just
So
export it and give it the name?
yeah, so what have you got? MR app.view. Merge request. Yeah, there'll be a JavaScript file somewhere which finds the HTML DOM element and then mounts imports the component and mounts the component sort of on top of the element, which is probably it's not what you're looking at because you're looking at the app.view, but there'll be somewhere that potentially loads this one. But is this because you've got your MR security widget, MR test report widget, MR Terraform widget, and MR code quality widget? It doesn't actually reference metrics there. I wonder, have you still got the docs open? Right, this is a premium feature. So you see it's got that badge there, so it means that the code might live in like the EE folders. So the file that you had open a moment ago is there the same file in the EE folder? So I can't remember what you're in, like app assets.
What if you try to copy file?
So app assets JavaScript.
Yeah, there is.
There you go. Right. So let's have a look at that one. And that's got MR metrics widget. There you go. And that's what we need. That's what we need.
Okay.
So I'm interested to sort of try and understand what this does. So, oh wow, it's still using Axios, which is super old. But I think that's because of the way I don't think it's like using GraphQL or anything. I think it's maybe grabbing the artifact just using an Axios call. So if you scroll down a little bit further, so you got fetch collapse data. Yeah, so it makes an Axios call on line 66, makes an Axios call to the metrics path, and then stores the response in the collapse data and content, format metrics. Get content. So it's an array of metrics. It maps new metrics, removed metrics, existing metrics. Okay, that all kind of makes sense. How does it, sorry, just so remove metrics. I'm interested. New metrics. Collapse. Can you go up a little bit further?
Go up.
Yeah, so where did it get collapse? Oh, it's passed in to get content. Okay. So can we have a look at what was it, get metric path or something like that? There was a method or Oh, API metrics path. Can we have a look at the
Mm-hmm.
definition of, there we go, this.mr. Okay, so that's a pain. MR metrics path. So this, at the moment, specifically coded to only work for a merge request.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the first things we need to figure out is, can we even access? So going back to your GitLab, to your web browser for a minute, what I'm interested to see on the MR one, that's it. So if you have a look in, what was this? Yeah, if you expand your MR on the right-hand side under props, is it props? Yeah, I think it's props. Where you got MR down a little bit further.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Okay.
And then the, what was it? API metric path or something like that. API. Can't remember what it's called now. I think you're gonna have to flick back to to Sublime quickly. Just I can't remember what the prop was called that it was using. Metrics reports path. Okay. So I think those three dots at the bottom, I think there's a load of that's it. So keep going, keep going. Oh, blimey. Wow.
Oh, that's a
It's
lot.
loading. Yeah, it's loading a hell of a lot of data, isn't it? But you notice how kind of it did take quite a long time to kind of
Yeah.
load.
Okay, we got M
Almost there. Metric report
plus
path. So it's down almost the last
okay.
one.
Reports path. Okay.
Metrics report. That's
Oh,
it.
this.
So merge request. Interesting. So it's stored. It's weird that it's actually stored metric reports.json.
I think that's the file where it reads from.
See, I thought it was a text file. Yeah.
Matrix T. Yeah.
So I think that this is potentially, I think we call it an internal API. So if you try and find, it's probably going to be something like, maybe try and find the metrics controller. That might be optimistic, but
There is.
so I don't know if, so it's
Should
definitely
it
not going to
be?
be Prometheus. I would have thought it'd be an EE, but just have a look at this top one. Yeah, this is to do with Prometheus, I think, the top one. So I don't think it is. So it might be in the merge request controller then. And again, I guess it'll probably be it. So that's the group one. Is there a project merge request controller? I think it's the next one down. I think it's this one. So can we see a metric something or other in here? Metric reports, that's it, I think.
It's an action, right? Or
Exactly. So
Mm-hmm.
and can we just double check again, going back to GitLab in the browser, that that was the path was, so it was, so it's the merge request slash merge request ID slash metrics reports. And if you go back to Sublime, yeah, I think that's it. So we need to figure out what that does. Merge request compare metrics reports. See, all of this is in the like all of this is in like the merge request model. So I am a little bit I don't know what the word is, pessimistic about our ability to get this data.
Comparison and service costs. To be passing here. Okay, this one. And then we call latest. Okay. Here we have latest data fetch. We just compare. Right.
Okay, so it doesn't seem to be like massive. It's not. This shouldn't be tied to merge request, should it? It should be possible to get this.
Base pipeline. So we take pipeline, and I don't see that there is anything related to merge request itself.
No, nor do I.
Metrics. Merge request, compare metrics. Actual head. Pipeline. Okay. Compare reports.
So that takes a service class, which we know what that is, a current user, a report type, additional param. And merge request isn't mentioned at all in here, is it?
Yeah, I
I
don't
don't
see
think.
it.
Awesome. Okay, so it doesn't really make sense why this lives in here. So with service class current user to data. Yeah, so it's referencing comparison base pipeline, which presumably is to do with the and actual head pipeline.
Do you want me to check those?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so actual head pipeline. Delegate. Okay. So it must be somewhere. Another object, right? Merge request head pipeline.
But we've already got a pipeline object. Like if we want to display it on the in the pipeline, we already have
Yeah.
that pipeline. What I guess I'm unsure of is how easy it is to get the comparison pipeline, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Hey, I got lost.
No. I know. Yeah, that's it. So the
Let's. Okay, base pipeline. We already have base pipeline and we have merge base pipeline.
So merge base pipeline is project.ci pipelines order by find by char.target SHA. I reckon we can still do that from a pipeline. Because again, there's no reference to the merge request in there, right? It's project.ci pipelines ordered like by the newest one first, and then find one with the SHA that matches the actual head pipeline. What's actual head pipeline? That would just be the current. Yeah, that would just be the current SHA, I think. So yeah, we should. It's going to be more work than I thought it would be, because essentially what this tells me, and I didn't realize, is that whilst we've got an artifact which has got the metrics in, the metric report is actually generated on the fly. So a call to this merge request controller to the metrics reports, what's it called, action, then calls all this code and does all the stuff, generates the report, and then sends the report. So we'll need to create a similar endpoint somewhere. I don't know, like we'll probably make it a proper API though, I guess, rather than one of these weird internal. I don't know if it'd be a weird internal one or a proper one. And again, if it's a proper one, is it a REST API or is it a GraphQL API? So that's some of the direction that we might need to get. I get the impression we probably shouldn't be using these weird internal APIs anymore. That feels like a sort of an anti-pattern. And I always favor GraphQL now, but I know that, like, not everyone does. We could go back to the browser, and maybe if you open the network tab. So I don't know how you would, if you type JSON into the filter. So just type it into this little box that you've got highlighted there. That's it. Right, so we're getting. Oh, sorry. This is. Can you do this same thing on the pipeline tab that you've got open there? The next browser tab along. That's it. Yep. So again, open the inspect, bring up the network tab. So I think you'll have to do a reload of the page for it to actually capture. Yeah, so it's only pulling back one JSON, which is what I call like using the legacy API. If you search for GraphQL instead of JSON in that filter, you can see that there's like a bunch of GraphQL queries. And if you click on the top one and look at the payload, these can be really horrible to read. Yeah, view source might work better on that. Oh God, that's horrible. Let's look at the response. Let's look at the response and see what actually came back. So we've got the project, the pipeline. The pipeline, we've got downstream and upstream. We got the stages. So I think that like all the information's probably in this response. And this is yeah, so I would say can you go back to, so yeah, so we've got project pipeline, right? So the pipeline type is pipeline. So I guess there's a pipeline type in GraphQL. I'll see. I'll try and open that as well. Pipeline type. So we probably need to be the EE one that we want. That's at the bottom of your search results there. That's it. Yeah. Now, you can already see actually here there's a security report summary, security report findings, code quality reports. So I think we're going in the right direction here, because it looks to me like this is the same way that the code quality report and the security report is currently handled. So we could jump another step and have an actual look at how, like, the code quality report. So maybe like the security report summary resolver. Oh no, actually, code quality report summary. Yeah, let's have a look at. Yeah, let's have a look. Can you see this? The resolver on line 15. So if we have a look what that does, this is my guess that we're going to need to create something similar to this. Oh, right. So there's a report summary service. So yeah, it kind of makes sense that we might want to create some kind of service. Maybe take some of the logic that's currently in, I don't know if it was in the compare report based service or the merge request. I'm not sure which
I think
one
this one.
Metric reports.
Compare metric reports service.
I mean, yeah, maybe we can call that directly.
You mean in one of the resolvers? I think
so.
We can try and see them
before we even so we'll probably end up wanting to create a resolver. But then there might actually be like there's kind of an easier way than doing that. So if you go back to your pipeline type, you've still got that open. That's it. Yeah. So you can see here these three method definitions at the bottom map to fields. So see, like dashed profile, exactly. Yes. So line 39, we define the field dashed profile, and then that maps to that method there, exactly. So we could even start off by defining a method in here if we wanted, and just put in the code, the logic as to how to generate the report in a new method in here, and then expose it as a field. But ultimately, I think we might end up wanting to move that into the pipeline model, maybe, because anything that's already available in the pipeline model, we can just reference the field directly here without needing to, without needing to do anything clever. But yeah, if you wanted to try and create a new method in here, so maybe do like def and just call it like test or something like that, and do like hello world as a string or something like that. So then add a field. Yeah, exactly.
Field called hello world.
Call it test.
What? Oh yes, it should be.
Might be a bad idea, but we'll try it.
Yeah.
We'll do. I'm just going to try and find out what string. What the string type is.
Just string, or
no, it might be actually. I'm just going to do a quick search. Wait a minute. Okay, why can't I find it? I think that might work. Some of them actually have GraphQL before the types. But try just no, leave it as it was, and we'll see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so we'll say null false, and then description. I don't know, hello, whatever, fine. So what we should be able to do now, well, we need to try and find where the GraphQL query is being like where the GraphQL query is defined that's executed. When you were in the browser and you were looking at the network, you could see that huge GraphQL query. So we need to kind of try and figure out where that GraphQL query is actually defined. So oh God, what are we on? We're on like the pipeline. Maybe use your Vue Dev Tools again, and we'll find out what Vue component this is on this page. So that's it, yeah. And yeah, I'm guessing it's probably like pipeline tabs or base pipeline. I'll start having a little dig. Pipeline tabs. And that imports base pipeline tabs. Okay, now I'm confused. Pipeline tabs.vue. Well, this would be where the Apollo query is defined, but I'm gonna try going. So what's above it? Pipeline tabs. Can you go all the way to? Yeah. So I can't find any reference to Apollo or GraphQL in here. So I don't know where it would be. If it can be any higher than this. If you go back to the browser for a moment.
Yeah.
Go all the way to the root node. That's it. Yeah, so there's Apollo. Can you expand queries? No, there's no query there. Interesting. Oh, that's just the root though, isn't it? Just trying to figure out what this component actually is. So what might mounts pipeline tabs? Um, struggling to find. Maybe we can guess. So all the GraphQL queries, I think that the files are like end with the extension .graphql.
Mm-hmm.
So we might be able to figure out.
Okay, there is no. It's not under EE, right? It's in general.
I kind of would have expected it to be, but it may not be.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so far, I think this is the only. If you talk about pipeline, GraphQL.
That's project pipeline, detailed status, stages, detailed status. Guess if you go back to the browser,
Mm-hmm.
and the network tab, we had that. So if you look at the payload again, job need union, that might actually help us. I'm just gonna. I think I might have found it. See at the beginning where it says fragment CI needs on job need union. I searched for that in I grepped for that and found a get pipeline details .query.graphql. That's it.
Query.
That's it.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So if you scroll down a little bit, so project pipeline, if you add, is it under pipeline that we added it? I think it was. So on say line 55, for example, try adding a new line after that and just put the word test in there and save that. And then reload your reload the page and it'll probably explode. Do you sort of see where I'm going with this though, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so the GraphQL query has returned an error. So let's just see what the can't reinstall subscription is using subscription action cable. God, what does that mean? That normally means there's just like a simple syntactical error. Can you check the Ruby file where we added that field, the pipeline type? Can't see anything obvious. Try prefixing before on line 45, before the double semicolon, put GraphQL. I don't think that's going to fix it, but just, yeah, we'll try it. You shouldn't need, you shouldn't need those two there. Try that and then try reloading that page again.
Yeah, it helped.
Okay. And there you go. I can see our hello world.
Yeah.
There you go, fixed. Push that up, raising them are done. I'm conscious it's 3:00 and we've got this other call to maybe hop onto.
Yes, yeah.
I hope that was vaguely helpful. I'll share the recording later, I imagine.